Today we're making one of the prettiest dresses that I've seen on the internet. This is actually my first time trying a PDF pattern that I bought off Cara Mia. Wrong sides together. This is my bodice. Wrong sides together. Yeah, this is looking good. Wrong sides together. This is too roughly. Wrong sides together. I can't always say that. Wrong sides together. Let's Southern Belle me up. This is my first summer in Boston. So I'm big city now because I just moved here from Ohio, and let me tell you, it is hot girl summer. And actually it's literally hot girl summer because my apartment does not have air conditioning. Hot girl summer just took on a whole new meaning. But anyway, today we're making one of the prettiest dresses that I've seen on the internet, and this is actually my first time trying a PDF pattern that I bought off Cara Mia. I saw her on Instagram, and just her content is just so pretty and lovely, and she makes this dress. I don't know if you can see it. And it's like so pretty, and it just reminds me of being a Southern belle. I'm gonna make this dress so I can feel like a Southern belle, maybe wear it to Charleston, which is my favorite place on earth. This is my first time trying a pattern that I bought off someone on the internet. So I'm also really excited to try something new and, you know, support a fellow creator. So with that, I have printed out all of her instructions. I'll be honest, it was fairly easy to print these out. I always get so nervous measuring myself and finding the right fit, because with McCall's patterns and Simplicity patterns that I get from Joann Fabrics, I pretty much have done enough to where I know my size. So this will be completely new. I hope that I know my size. Anyway, we've got the instructions printed out. First thing I need to do, which I'm actually quite nervous about, I also have to combine the pattern myself. Not a huge puzzle person, but I guess I'm gonna be a puzzle person today. I need to put them together, cut them out, and then actually cut them out on the fabric. I guess maybe before we get started with the pattern pieces, let me show you this beautiful fabric that I'm working with. Oh my gosh, just look at how pretty these colors go together. And when I tell you that I found this floral pattern first, believe me. So I found the floral pattern first, and then it took a long time to go through Joann's to find the perfect color to go with it, because I wanted something that was more complementary than like matchy-matchy with the color. The pretty floral is gonna be the ruffle, and the blue is gonna be the dress part. So I am just so excited. Let's Southern Belle me up. I think I want to start with the bodice piece first, which I think is this. I don't know, this looks like a dart to me. So let's see if I can figure out how this goes. This looks like the end of some sort. It looks like it goes together. This looks like it goes together. How is this? Okay, well, that wasn't so bad to get the bodice piece done. I feel like the rest, like the skirt and the ruffles, are just rectangles, so you know, hopefully I'll be able to figure that out. But yeah, that was good. So I'll show you what it looks like. So here's what it looks like all laid out. Yeah, you can kind of see the shape of a bodice there. Like, this is exciting. This is exciting. I've never like custom built pattern before. So I'm just gonna start getting this like cleaned up and cut out. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that felt a little bit like crafting hour from when I was in grade school, just cutting out precisely all those pieces, but it's still gonna feel like crafting hour because now I'm going to tape them together. And I'm very carefully matching up all of my lines. All right, so then once I have this taped together, got a couple more pieces, but then I'll start cutting like out the actual pattern piece. Okay, now this is what it looks like. And now I'm gonna get this like actually cut out into the actual pattern piece. Well, can you guess which one of these took me the longest to cut out? It was the pocket. I'm just kidding. Actually, it was all of the rectangles. I don't know what it was, but it took me forever to line up those patterns, even though they're literally just elementary rectangle square shape. This is the strangest looking bodice I've ever seen. It has like a dart on the side. Like I think this is the front, this is the back. I think it ends up like kind of going like this. Like, and there's like the V-neck here. Yeah, but we'll see. This is very new to me, but she has a very nice layout of how to lay out all the pieces. So that is what I'm gonna do next. And I guess pro tip, whenever I'm working with a ton of fabric, like I usually fold it up on one side and then so it's not like hanging over. Definitely don't want that. And then I'll just kind of unfold this as I go. I guess now that I'm doing this, I don't love paper patterns. Like I really like pinning them to the fabric. I feel like my fabric moves around a lot. So if anyone has any tips on actually like getting the pattern piece and the fabric not to move so much, please write them in the comments. I will make sure to use them and use them as a pro tip later. Okay, super pro hack that I literally just thought of. Like I used to use these, I honestly don't even know what this is. I got it from my dad's tool bench, but they're just not heavy enough. Like things can still like shift underneath them. So I've been like doubling them up, but candles, like why didn't I think about it? Like candles are actually heavy enough to set down and like the fabric will not shift. So yeah, I need more candles. Like I think that's really gonna help things staying in place. I love it when an idea comes to me mid-project that makes things go smoother. So get out your candles. Here is the bodice. And you can kind of see like, I don't know, the different markings on it that we'll just worry about later. Okay, slight little hiccup with the armhole ruffle pattern. So I noticed on these lovely directions that Karamia has on how to lay out each pattern piece on the fabric, it has the armhole ruffle, hopefully you can see this, on the fold. But the pattern piece does not have like any markings to say that it should be on the fold. And so I was having to rearrange my fabric to accommodate for the length of the armhole ruffle, and I'm like, well, what really should be the length? And in the instructions, it says the length should be 38 inches. Well, when I measure this pattern piece, it's only 28 inches, which obviously makes a huge difference. So I reached out to Karamia, and she's very accessible, she's really nice, and she was super responsive. And we talked through some things. She didn't have access to her files, but you know, beginner sewer didn't really like think about this, but as long as the ruffle is longer than the length of where it's being sewn onto, that's really all that matters. Duh. Like, pro sewing tip, when sewing a ruffle and you don't know the measurement, just make sure it's longer than where you're sewing it onto. So I'm going to measure the armhole of the bodice. So I've got my bodice pattern, and if I just like take my measuring tape and I'm just gonna measure like around here, just holding this, try to get it as exact as possible, just measuring around, measuring. Okay, so it's about 20 inches and the armhole ruffle pattern piece is 28 inches. So I think I'm good. And thank you so much, Karamia, for the help. Really appreciate that. Thank you for being super responsive, so it didn't hold me up. I'm just gonna keep cutting this out like as is and not worry about it being on the fold or not, because I already know that it's the correct length. So away we go. Takes longer than I think it's gonna take, but everything's cut out and I'm finally ready to start sewing. Reading the directions, there is 11 steps. 11 steps. I can get this done in an afternoon, right? Well, it always takes me longer than I think it's gonna take. Does this happen to anyone else when they're sewing? They're like, oh, 11 steps, I'll do that in like an hour. And then like 4 days later, you're like, yeah, I'm still not done yet. So what I like to do is I actually like to start prepping all the pieces first and then like put them all together. I just think things go faster that way. Otherwise it's like, oh, I made so much progress over here. Now I have to like prep the ruffle over here. I don't know, maybe it's just my brain. It makes me think like I'm moving backwards sometimes. Okay, so what I've done thus far is, first thing is getting the pockets on the skirt. There wasn't actually any instructions for how much seam allowance to use, so I just did 3/8 inch. I don't know, maybe I missed that in the instructions somewhere. I don't think I did. If I did, oopsies, but I did 3/8 inch for both ruffles. The arm and the neck ruffle, I folded each piece in half lengthwise, then sewed the short ends shut, and then just flipped it out so that the wrong sides are together, ironed it, and then I'm gonna put in my basting long gathering stitches on the top and then use that to gather and attach. I actually think I did a pretty good job of matching the thread to the fabric on these ruffles, if I do say so myself. Oh my gosh, are we ready to start sewing yet? So now that I've gotten a lot of the pieces made, like I'm just ready to get going. So first order of business is the lovely bodice, and one thing that I like to do is I always just pin to mark the inside of the fabric, because like obviously this literally looks the same on the inside and outside, but yeah, I just use a pin to mark the inside and then I know what side I'm working with. And usually the starting point for any bodice is the darts. Now, usually with darts, I match up notches on any regular pattern, but I did not see notches on this pattern, so more clear on this one, like I actually marked the darts with my tracing paper so that I could actually see it. And then also when we sew the bodice together, it's not like a 5/8 inch seam allowance, it's actually like in a little bit, not really sure how much, obviously I could just measure it, but yeah, I just went ahead and marked that line so that when I'm sewing, I just don't have to add any markings on my sewing machine. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these darts sewed in. Here's where I marked the darts. And here is where I marked the seam line. Yeah, because we're only sewing up to there, but at least you can see the darts on here. Here she is. All right, next set of directions says to take your two bodice pieces and place them one on top of the other with wrong sides together. That is what we will do. We shall follow the instructions. I've got it pinned and I'm only gonna pin up to here. Not sure what happens next, but you can see my lovely darts. Yeah, that would be this thing. These two rectangles took me 2.5 hours to sew because I tried to get fancy with the pockets and put in French seams, and I kept doing it wrong, and then I did it wrong again, and then I had to fix it like the third time. So 2.5 hours to sew the skirt together, and that wasn't even the hard part. We're actually about to get to the hard part, sewing the bodice and the ruffles together. So the fun just keeps on going. But honestly, overall, this is super simple. Like, I don't know why, like totally on me that this took 2.5 hours trying to get fancy with French seams. Like, I just sewed my wrong sides together, then I sewed a wrong side to a right side. Not the pattern's fault, totally my fault. But I guess there is some good news that all my ruffles are ruffled. I can go ahead and quick get started on attaching the neck ruffle to the bodice. I don't know if we need to do a quick recap on the bodice, but I've got it sewed up until the sew here. I've got it sewed up until the sew here point, and these ends are pressed out, and you can see that this is the right side, so the ends are pressed out on the outside. Okay, then it looks like this. It's almost like it has it closed. I'm just gonna pin like this. Okay, so I've got this sewed on, right? This is my top side. Got it sewed on like this, so when I open this up, you can see this is like the V side. And bring this out over here. Wrong side, and I'm just gonna sew up this line. All right, quick ruffle sew. And now it says I will literally read the instructions. Fold the ruffle over so that the ruffle is now pointing out towards the shoulder. Watch this. Watch this. Look at how beautiful that looks. Iron, and then I'm gonna sew 1/8 inch along here. Oh my gosh, this just looks so beautiful. Like, I don't even have it ironed down yet and it looks so beautiful. Like, I just wanna sew it in and get the other one in right away. Okay, I think we're finally at the point where I'm getting excited and I see the vision. All right then, on to the armhole ruffle. To do the armhole ruffle, I'm just gonna take my already ruffled armhole ruffle piece and I'm simply going to pin around here. And I think I may have ruffled it a little bit too much. So unruffling we shall. Okay, note to self, when making this pattern, this is too ruffly. As you can see, it would not fit on the pattern piece, so I'm gonna have to like really extend it out. I'm like, okay, armhole ruffle, not so much, not as ruffly as the neck hole ruffle. Really got to take a lot out of this, but we will do that and then see if this finally fits. Top stitch on the shoulder seam is just French kiss. And we only have 2 steps left for the bodice. So also French kiss. Yes, we are finally closing up the bodice. We've got the ruffle sewn on, we've got the V, we're ready to close her up. So 2 steps, I'm going to close the shoulders and then sew the side seams. But first, I wanna show you one thing that I did that wasn't in the direction. So here's our bodice. Here's the shoulder seams, and one thing that I did, if you can see here, is there wasn't any instructions on what to do with this end piece, so I did like fold it down just to have a smooth edge there. There wasn't anything in view B instructions, it was only in view A, but that's what I did just to give it a clean finish. And now with my wrong sides together, because we're doing French seams, so wrong sides together, we're gonna pin this shut, and then I think we're sewing right along here. All right, shoulders are sewed together, right sides. I'm gonna flip, press, and then sew along this line. Okay, so now the back is done. Nice little shoulder seam there, and this is how it looks from the outside. Last thing with the bodice is just getting these side seams attached, and then we'll be able to put the skirt on. I will say that one thing I'm a little confused on when I'm attaching the side seams is, am I supposed to sew like up the ruffle? Like, do I just stop here? Does it matter? So I'm gonna pin the whole thing, see what it looks like. Do you see what I mean? Like, am I supposed to sew all the way just to here? I don't know. We'll see what the pinning does. Holy ruffles. This looks great. I couldn't decide the best way to do the side seam with the ruffles. Like, do I sew the ruffles into the side seam? Do I stop the side seam like right about here? So I did a basting stitch on each side. This one is with the ruffles attached. This one is with the ruffles not attached. And honestly, like, from the front, you can't really tell. But the one where it's not attached just feels better on my arm. This just feels a little more stiff. The side that is attached feels more stiff. So I'm going to do this. I'm not going to attach them, but yeah, this is looking good. Very roughly, but it's cute. Roughly, but cute. So what do you notice? First and foremost, this is entirely too short. Something's happening over here with this ruffle. I'm gonna have to like fix that. Yeah, we're gonna have to add another layer for sure. Let's see if we get out my handy like measuring tape, and if I bring this at like 12 or so inches, I need it to go down to like 18 or 17, so I need to add at least 6 inches. Okay, it's finally done, and I think it looks, I don't know, it's a very cute, flowy, summery dress that is like kind of couture. I cannot wait to wear this on a hot, humid day because it's just so airy, it's so light. I do feel like I need to fix Like this down here, I don't love how it's like jetting out. I definitely think it's something that I did. But other than that, I'm liking it. And overall, this pattern was really easy to make. I just had a really hard time sewing the skirt pieces, but I was trying to do French seams and kept sewing the wrong side together. So that was totally my fault, but the directions are really easy to follow. Cara Mia is like, anytime I had any questions, she was very accessible and very willing to help. So I, even as a beginner sewer, like definitely had to reach out and ask her a couple questions because seam allowances weren't always marked, and I added this bottom piece. It was just a little too short, and I asked her like, how do I do that? And she just told me to cut out another rectangle 1.5 times the length of the larger rectangle, which is what I did. I think it looks a lot better. It definitely needed that bottom piece, but I would definitely recommend this pattern to someone else. I like definitely learned how to do the V. It was really interesting to see how the ruffles came together on that. Also love that it has pockets. Who doesn't love pockets? I'm looking at myself in the TV reflection. I'm like, ooh, I like it. Happy summer sewing. I now have my flowy summer dress for when it gets hot and humid outside. So until next time, see ya.